Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to Canal Algérie's nightly news. On to the headlines. Army General Saïd Chingriha, Minister Delegate to the National Defense Minister, the PNA Chief of Staff, chairs a ceremony on the occasion of Eid al-Fitr to extend the feast's wishes. At the request of Algeria, the UN Security Council holds today an emergency session to examine the latest developments in the Palestinian territories. And on the ground, the Zionist military machinery keeps killing innocent people seriously hit by the current blockade being imposed on them. Welcome back. First off, we start our bulletin with Eid al-Fitr greeting ceremony held this morning at the headquarters of the Ministry of National Defense. The event was presided over by Army General Saïd Chingriha, Minister Delegate to the Minister of National Defense, Chief of Staff of the People's National Army. Madan Maafas starts us off tonight.
Present at the ceremony were the Secretary General of the Ministry of National Defense, the commanders of the National Gendarmerie, the commanders of the Republican Guard, the commander of the 1st Military Region, heads of departments, the Army's General Inspector, directors and heads of central services of the Ministry of National Defense, and the General Staff of the People's National Army, as well as the General Director of Customs, the General Director of National Security, and the General Director of Civil Defense. On this occasion, the Army General Chief of Staff of the PNA took the opportunity to extend his most sincere wishes to those present and through them to their families and to all personnel of the People's National Army and to the Algerian people as a whole. On the occasion of Eid al-Fitr of the year 1446 of the Hijri calendar, the Chief of Staff of the People's National Army said that it was a pleasure for him to address his staff and through them their honorable families with his sincere and warmest congratulations. He also said, "Let us pray to Allah Almighty to renew these religious occasions in peace, blessings and prosperity, and to grant our dear homeland more development in a climate of security and stability."
وأود بهذه المناسبة الدينية الميمونة التأكيد.
He further added that he would like to emphasize on this occasion that while he commended the performance of our officers and personnel within all components of the armed forces, he highly valued their strong sense of responsibility and their continuous efforts to contribute to the development of our combat and operational capabilities. Likewise, he expected them to adopt a perspective of continuous improvement in performance quality in order to achieve the desired objectives and intended goals.
الرفع المستديم من جودة الأداء في سبيل بلوغ الأهداف المسطرة والغاية المنشودة.
An emergency meeting of the Security Council on the Palestinian situation will be held today afternoon upon the request of Algeria, given the dangerous escalation of the situation in the Palestinian territories, notably in Gaza, undergoing a blockade for over a month accompanied by relentless bombing that targeted humanitarian workers, especially those of the Palestinian Red Crescent and Civil Defense. This request comes after the unprecedented rise in violence by settlers in the West Bank. In the same context, Algeria calls for an independent investigation into the crimes committed by the Zionist entity in Gaza against humanitarian workers, while advocating for the establishment of a mechanism to hold the perpetrators accountable. Algeria's permanent representative to the UN, Ammar Ben Jama, stated that in 2024, it had been the deadliest year for humanitarian workers. Let's have a listen to him.
This is a timely meeting to discuss the implementation of Resolution 2730, which calls for the respect for the protection of humanitarian and the United Nations personnel. In Gaza, just a few days ago, 15 emergency and aid workers from the Red Crescent, from Palestinian Civil Defense, and from the United Nations were found buried in a mass grave. They had been buried near destroyed ambulances and near clear marked vehicles. These individuals were killed, yes, assassinated, by Israeli occupying forces while attempting to save lives. They deserve justice. As ASG Msuya stated, we should speak out. We need the voice of the Security Council and the broader UN membership to be loud and clear. Almost a year after the adoption of Resolution 2730, it is unfortunate to note that despite its ambitions, this resolution, this decision of the Security Council has had very little impact on the ground. 2024 was the deadliest year on record for humanitarian personnel, with 377 aid workers killed, nearly 100 more fatalities than in 2023.
Intense airstrikes in Rafah, southern Gaza, targeted residential areas uninhabitable. These attacks have worsened the humanitarian crisis, cutting off vital aid and leaving displaced families to struggle with hunger. Report by Wissam Abu Zaid, taken up by Min Al-Maafa.
Since last night, Palestinian medical teams have not stopped recovering dozens of martyrs and wounded. Most of them are children and women, following a series of intense fire attacks launched by the Zionist occupation army. The attacks lasted for several hours in the city of Rafah in southern Gaza and were accompanied by a ground incursion. Air bombardments killed nearly 1,000 Palestinians and injured even more over the past 2 weeks. This is part of a plan to take control of the border areas in the north and east of Rafah city. The crimes have not stopped, even in the Palestinian governorates. During the daytime hours, the occupation targeted a shelter center belonging to the UNRWA in Jabalia camp in the northern Gaza Strip, blatantly violating all international norms and laws. Aggressive attacks targeted innocent civilians, no different from the crimes hidden by the Zionist occupation, including cutting off aid and worsening the humanitarian crisis. Hunger has spread among the displaced in their tents, leaving families with no choice but to use spoiled flour infested with worms in a desperate attempt to fill the empty stomachs of their starving children who suffer day and night. I try my best to clean this flour infested with worms and bugs to feed my starving daughters. I cannot even find bread. We are truly starving.
ندود وسفران وصراصير.
The systematic targeting by the occupation of residential homes, humanitarian centers and facilities belonging to the United Nations aims to make Gaza uninhabitable and to cut off any humanitarian supplies that could help strengthen the resilience of the Palestinian people on their own occupied homeland.
The United States calls a horizon to denounce the situation in Gaza. The University of Harvard in Massachusetts was the scene of demonstrations and sittings to protest the barbaric Zionist aggression in Gaza, the arrest of many students for their positions. The demonstrators also denounced the American support to the Zionist entity, demanding an immediate end to the aggression against the enclave in what they described as a repression against the rising voices for Palestinian rights on campus and other universities, including Columbia. Coming up in our news edition. Morocco involved once more in drug trafficking. A new network supplying Europe with these illicit goods is dismantled by the Spanish authorities. Sahrawis living in exile away from their homeland celebrated Eid al-Fitr in refugee camps. The celebration took place regardless. Decorated tents, gatherings around the meal dressed in their best clothes, while hoping that one day they will be able to celebrate on their homeland. Salim Miroh depicts for us the atmosphere there.
The Eid al-Fitr festivities takes place in an atmosphere of sharing and solidarity in the Sahrawi refugee camps, where families exchange visits and perpetuate their traditions, while hoping to one day celebrate this occasion in their homeland occupied by the Moroccan regime. Eid is a special event for the Sahrawis as tradition dictates. They decorate their homes, prepare sweet and dishes and drinks and organize convivial meals with meat. Families gather to share this unique moment. While men exchange their greetings after the Eid prayer, Sahrawi women play a central role in organizing the festivities.
يفرشوا خيمتهم ويوجدوا معينهم الزينين.
فرحتنا ما هي مكتملة بينا نحن معنا في أرضنا. صح عيد الصحراويين وصح عيد كل أطفال العالم.
For the Sahrawi people, the true celebration of Eid will be only complete when freedom and independence are finally reality through the territory of Western Sahara.
Morocco, implicated on several fronts, it also finds itself at the center of a vast drug trafficking network. The Spanish Civil Guard has just dismantled a criminal organization that was flooding Europe with drugs directly from Morocco. At its head, a drug baron who operated with a sophisticated technological arsenal. This resulted in 23 arrests, hundreds of kilos of drugs seized, and a reality that remains unchanged. Morocco is the world's leading exporter of cannabis resin. Salim Mirah.
Moroccan drug trafficking once again spotted by Spanish authorities in a major operation dubbed Insula. The Spanish Civil Guard dismantled a vast criminal network specializing in the large-scale importation of hashish from Morocco, the main source of supply for the European market, led by the famous drug trafficker nicknamed Al Tarta. A notorious figure in Moroccan drug trafficking, the organization used the Guadalquivir River as a transport route, using fast boats equipped with powerful engines to transport these illicit goods. The investigation launched in April 2024 led to the discovery of stolen luxury vehicles converted for truck transport, secure storage facilities, and a sophisticated technological arsenal. These searches resulted in the seizure of considerable quantities of fuel and hashish, 3 boats, 2 stolen vehicles, including geolocalization devices, security cameras, satellite phones, and nautical GSP devices, as well as more than 50,000 euros in cash. The operation, which led to the arrest of 23 traffickers, is part of a broader fight against drugs trafficking from Morocco. According to the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, Morocco remains the largest producer and exporter of cannabis resin in the world, with an estimated production of more than 700 tons per year. Worth mentioning that by March, the Spanish police dismantled an international drug trafficking network in Marabia, in southern Spain, with links to a Moroccan organization specialized in drug trafficking and organized crime.
On to the operational report of the People's National Army's activity in the past week. In the context of the fight against terrorism, thanks to the efforts of units of the PNA, the terrorists called Haj Osman Gumar surrounded the military authorities in Ingizem, the 6th military region, possession of Kalashnikov submachine gun, quantity of ammunition, and other items, while detachments of the PNA arrested 5 support elements of terrorist groups during separate operations across the national territory. In the framework of the fight against organized crime and the continuation of the tireless efforts aimed at countering the scourge of drug trafficking in our country, combined detachments of the PNA intercepted in coordination with the different security services in operations across the military regions 23 drug traffickers and averted attempts to introduce 6 quintals and 80 kilograms of processed keef through the borders with Morocco, while 4 kilograms, 513 grams of cocaine, and 214,929 psychotropic tablets were seized. In Tamaras Borjbaji Mukhtar Adrar Ilizi, detachments of the People's National Army arrested 136 individuals and seized 26 vehicles, 148 generators, 54 jackhammers, 2 metal detectors, as well as quantities of mixture of raw gold and stones, explosives, detonation tools, and other equipment used in illegal gold mining operations. On the other hand, 6 other individuals were arrested: 1 automatic pistol, 3 hunting rifles, 67,524 liters of fuel, as well as 28 quintals of tobacco and 2.5 tons of foodstuffs intended for smuggling and speculation were seized during separate operations across the national territory. Similarly, border guards sorted on our national coast attempts at illegal immigration and proceeded to save 78 individuals aboard traditionally made boats, while 145 illegal immigrants of different nationalities were arrested across the national territory. Tasked by the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, the Health Minister and Mujahideen Minister, respectively, Abdelhaq Sayhain and Aider Biga, will take part in the World Disabilities Summit in Germany. This event is meant to integrate the social segment, promote investment destined to them, and spearhead sustainable development. Lastly, sports, and as part of the CAF competition, CS Constantine drew 1-1 with the second representative of Algeria in the same contest, USMA, in a quarter-final game held at Constantine Stadium. The second leg will take place here in Algiers next week. The end. Thank you for watching. Zahayatkum.